How many times do I have to be right before you guys take me seriously? I've been getting a lot of my predictions right on the money lately, and you know that. It's not because I'm some crazy fortune teller, but I'm not exactly guessing either. Listen, I've been doing this for a long time. Being able to predict how the market sways back and forth is possible just purely based off of the fact of how many years I've been reporting on these same companies. I am able to separate what I want to happen, what I would like to happen, from the things that would actually happen. For some reason, a lot of you are just outright laughing at me because on Friday's episode, I said the 6.1-inch LCD iPhone this year will outsell the other OLED models. And I mean, there are decent arguments against what I'm saying. Drew over at Talos of Tech put out a really good video basically giving reason after reason as to why the LCD model will not outsell the others. But Drew also mentioned in more than one video multiple possible hardware announcements at WWDC 2018.
But then moving on from software, and I think that will be the primary focus of this keynote, we're also getting some very exciting hardware.
Whereas I flat out told you that there would be none. And there were none. Love you, Drew. But you know what? Okay, fine. You win. I will back myself up here. I will back up my theory. I'll give you 4 reasons why I'm right. 4 reasons why the 2018 6.1-inch LCD iPhone model will outsell the others. So we're looking at 3 new iPhones this year. We'll get an obvious follow-up to the iPhone 10, whatever that'll be called, which according to some real solid sources could cost around $900. Then, of course, a massive 6.5-inch iPhone 10 Plus that could cost around $1,000. And then we have that wild card, the 6.1-inch LCD model that could sit around $600, $650, most likely around $700. Now, of course, both the 2018 iPhone 10 follow-up and the iPhone 10 Plus will feature OLED displays, just as the iPhone 10 did, which cost Apple roughly $110 per display for those devices. Whereas an LCD display, like $40. This is the immediate price difference that we're seeing here. Of course, Apple most likely will cut a couple more corners to make sure the price is down for this LCD model, but this LCD display is the main reason they're going to be able to sell this thing for a more accessible price. Let's start off with reason number 1. The people that buy Apple products are average consumers. Listen, shh. Those are just the facts. Whether you agree with me or not, I don't give a shit. The majority of Apple's customers are just everyday average consumers, and that's not specific to Apple. In tech as a whole, people like you and I are totally disproportionately outnumbered by those people. You guys are acting like everyone that buys an iPhone, all of them, every single person, is all a Talos of Tech subscriber. Like we gotta separate those people over here from the people over here because Apple people, oh no, they're special. As if average consumers can't also prefer to have an Apple logo on the back of their phone? Nah, bro, they're just special, man. They're fancy-ass people with fancy-ass needs. I don't know what the you all are smoking. It's estimated that somewhere between like 50%, maybe even 60% of Americans own an Apple product of some kind. That's crazy, crazy market share. Compare that to the runner-up, which of course is Samsung, and buddy, it ain't even close. And I'm sorry, but 60% of Americans are not all fancy-ass people with fancy-ass needs. Maybe they're average people. Up until this year, the ASP, or average sales price, of an iPhone was $695. In 2018, this year, that shifted, right? The average sales price is now hovering around $750 to $800. And that's directly because the iPhone 10 jumped up in price so much compared to previous years. But here's the thing. The iPhone 10 was the first radical design change in years for Apple. The iPhone 10 outsold the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus not because it's that much more amazing, but because it finally looked different. It looked new. There is a massive difference, a very clear difference between the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, and everyone, you, me, super tech enthusiasts, and the average consumer, we all want the thing that looks new. You know what? I bet that 75% of the consumer, if you held up an iPhone 6 all the way up to an iPhone 8, they couldn't tell you which one was what. But they all know that the iPhone 10 is the new thing because it looks like the new thing. And this year, it'll be much harder for Apple to convince people to up the price they're willing to spend because, well, all the new phones are adopting the iPhone 10 design. Oh, and one of them will be cheaper. You'll notice, of course, if you're playing along at home, that that previous average sales price of $695 conveniently lines up with the supposed price range of the upcoming LCD model. Do you really think that's accidental? Reason number 2. It'll look the same. A lot of people keep using the argument with me that Apple's history dictates that people don't want the cheaper model. They're Apple customers, damn it. They want better. They know better. They are better. The iPhone 5C didn't outsell the iPhone 5S in 2013, and the iPhone SE surely didn't outsell the iPhone 6S or the iPhone 7. Well, of course not. Those phones didn't do poorly just because they were cheaper. If it was about cheaper iPhones, then the older iPhones, the ones that get lowered in price every year, would outsell the new iPhones year over year. The iPhone 5C didn't outsell the iPhone 5S because the 5C looked like a cheap chunk of shit. It looked like the dumbed down version. And the iPhone SE, even though it's an amazing phone, it's a great phone, when it came out, it looked like the phone from 2 or 3 years ago. It looked old as shit. So what do you expect? This time it's different, and Apple knows it. This whole theory of mine is contingent on that lower cost 6.1-inch LCD model looking the same as the other phones. It's contingent on it looking like the iPhone 10, adopting the same design, notch and all. People keep arguing with me, saying that it's actually impossible for the LCD model iPhone to look like the iPhone 10. Because to have that design, to have the iPhone 10 design, that bezel-less design, it requires the display to be curved under itself. And the only displays that bend like that are OLED displays. Right? And it's true, the iPhone 10 display does curve under itself at the bottom of the phone to connect it to the display controller. The display controller itself takes up a little bit of room, so curving the display underneath itself means that Apple can put the controller there and eliminate the need for chin at the bottom. But LCD displays can't curve and bend like that because there's too many layers to them, right? So that right there, boom, immediately kills the possibility that this LCD model looks like the iPhone 10. Boom, done deal, case closed. Yeah, well, not quite. Curved LCD displays are a thing. They're called full active LCD displays. Effectively, they use plastic instead of glass to allow the display to bend more. And what do you know? Apple has shown interest in Japan Display, the company that coincidentally makes full active LCD displays. Now, my issue with Japan Display is that I don't think they can produce at scale. I don't think they can even come close to Apple's demands. So Apple will likely use LG to manufacture displays for the LCD iPhone. And you'll notice that LG shipped the G7 Thin Q with their new MLCD Plus display technology that can emulate a lot of the same features that we see in OLEDs. Improved brightness and much better contrast ratio. The MLCD Plus technology also allows for a thinner bottom bezel. We saw that, right? The G7 Thin Q came with a bottom bezel that was almost 50% smaller than what we saw on the G6, which is a very important thing to know because that's exactly what Apple needs in order to have an iPhone 10-like front display panel for this LCD model. The combination of the already existing display technology coming from LG mixed with what Apple knows about full active displays is an easy indication that with some clever engineering, they can pull this off. We also reported on there being a slight production hiccup with the 6.1-inch LCD model. There were claims coming out that they had run into an issue where light was leaking from the notch area at the top of the phone, indicating that, yup, the LCD model will adopt the iPhone 10 design. Even the notch for Face ID. The production issue, according to the reports, isn't a make or break situation. According to said reports, it would just require them to delay the LCD model until November to give them enough time to get their shit together, which is the same time they released the iPhone 10 last year. If this is true, if the phone is delayed and it comes out in November, right before Christmas, yeah. It's gonna crush it. Reason number 3, it's not about superior hardware. OLED displays on iPhones are literally brand new to Apple and brand new to Apple customers. You cannot act like it would be super difficult for a customer to go back to LCD. We've already established that the Apple consumer is the average consumer. And I will tell you right now, the average consumer does not give a single f*** about LCD versus OLED. In fact, I would go to bet that most of them couldn't tell you the difference. It matters to us, right? And we know that OLED is clearly a superior display. But if having superior display technology actually mattered, then Samsung would have been kicking Apple's dick into the dirt every single year, while Apple was continuing to drag their feet releasing phones with LCD displays. If it was about outright superior hardware, then a lot of Android phones on the market right now would independently be outselling the iPhone. I mean, a lot of them are better and superior hardware on paper, right? But no one gives a single shit about Android devices and their 6 goddamn gigabytes of RAM. Everyone still wants an iPhone. It's the experience that matters. It's the walled garden that people are after. This is not a debate between iOS versus Android. The decision is already made. It's iOS. People want iOS. Now, which phone are they going to buy? Like I said before, the numbers aren't even close. The ratio is not even close. And average consumers, they can still understand that they want an Apple logo on the back of their phone. For the most part, it's a software game. And Apple has been winning for years because of that fact. It's a software game, and at this point, it's a fashion game as well. If you take this new phone, you give the average consumer an LCD model iPhone that looks like the new iPhone. It gives them access to iOS that they love, and it's cheaper. Game over. Apple is not done with LCD displays. The average consumer is going to be able to notice that this phone looks new before they will ever notice that it has an LCD panel inside of it. Are you kidding me? If by some miracle the LCD model doesn't sell well, it sure as hell won't be because of the panel. All right, reason number 4. Apple is literally ordering more of the LCD models than OLED models. We're getting more and more reports from suppliers themselves that Apple is ordering more LCD models than OLED models to be produced. Now, if I was wrong about this, okay, why the hell would Apple be ordering more LCD models than OLED models into production? You can tell me all you want that you know Apple and you know Apple customers are special snowflakes with special needs, but I highly doubt you know more about Apple's core customer base than Apple themselves. Apple knows they had one whole year to milk the wow factor, the newness factor of that iPhone X design. Now it's time to get realistic and give people a phone that looks like the iPhone X that doesn't cost iPhone X prices. If I was wrong about this and everybody else was right in saying that this LCD phone will not look like the iPhone X and it will not outsell the OLED models this year, tell me why Apple would go on a total and complete suicide mission by wrecking their own sales because they ordered so many of these phones. They're ordering more of these LCD phones because they know they've got something impressive. They know something we don't. And you know what? The best part is, all the way back in January, you can check the episodes, I started saying that I just had a weird feeling that Google was going to start tripping over themselves, and they seem to have started to do that, and that Apple, of all people, was going to figure their shit out this year. And here we are. Here we are, halfway through the year, right? And we now have Apple, a more self-aware Apple. They're refining and optimizing iOS 12 instead of stuffing it with a bunch of features that we don't need. And they're about to give us 3 reasonably priced phones? Listen to me. We are not dealing with the same Apple that we've been used to the past couple years, people. Forget what you think you know about them because they're about to flip it all upside down and meet the consumer halfway.